Hey everyone, welcome back. So if you're watching, this looks like it took all of a second, but it's actually been a little bit. I finally got the parts in for this job. I haven't even opened them yet. I really hope they're correct. We'll find out soon. The head, I checked over in shop and straight edged it. Everything looked good. If this was either a less expensive vehicle or my own personal vehicle, I absolutely would have just dressed the head in shop and been content with that. For the sake of what this is, I sent it to a machine shop, had everything pressure tested, vacuum tested, cleaned, and it came out perfect. The head's fine. So that's great news. Also, we did find an issue in the cylinder head gasket. I found two. I found an O-ring would blown out to an oil return gallery, and also one of the cylinders had a blowout on the head gasket as well. So off camera, I didn't mention this, but before, when I found coolant in the oil, I had the oil pan off and I actually pressure tested the cooling system. And over the course of like an hour, hour and a half, you could slowly see coolant starting to drip out the bottom of the engine, essentially. I also did initially try doing a retorque on the head, and I did find that the head bolts were, in fact, loose on a few cylinders, but that didn't resolve our problem, obviously. So then I tore into the head gasket. Little details like that, I guess I didn't mention, but I had somebody comment, so maybe I'll throw that information out there. Yeah, and what else can we do? Yeah, I get so busy with stuff. I've had other jobs and stuff, and this is literally just sitting. So I haven't even prepped the rest of the parts to go back. So today it's prep the block, get the head in and torqued, and then just start prepping components and start getting everything back together. I actually had this gasket on and off several times. Seems as though one of these O-ring holes was drilled not correctly. I couldn't even fit the O-ring in it. I had to take a hand file and just massage the hole out, get rid of a burr that was in it. And then where my dowel pins also line up, they were off a little bit. And if I forced it on, it would actually lift the gasket in the center and then pop this out. So I took it on and off a few times, and I just massaged this dowel hole in the gasket. I just massaged it over a little bit for clearance. Now it's sitting flush and everything's looking good, but yeah, check your parts over carefully. Easy to get something with a manufacturer defect. Trying to get eyes on this gasket, on this O-ring, because this is the one that had originally blown out. And it's just my most concerning one going together. That went good. Still fish my time and stuff out. That went really good. Okay. Underneath the head, I put one finger to search for the stud. And when I found the stud, I kind of guided it up into the head bolt, into the hole for the head. A little awkward holding it out there like that. We did it okay. Aluminum, yeah. All right, guys, we got the timing chains all set up now. So you've seen where we were at before. Had the intake cam that was off a lot. And we got the intake cam looking pretty darn good. I'll show you how I did this really quick. There's a ton of info out there for how to do the exhaust cam. It's so simple. You just loosen this big nut right here, peel this locking tab out, loosen this nut, remove this through bolt right here. And then you can rotate the cam and find out where it goes. Then put everything back together where you're happy with it at. So on this style, this is the centrifugal VVT system that Alfa used. I guess it wasn't as popular because they went to the solenoid one. I could find a lot of info on the solenoid one. I could find a lot of info on the non-VVT ones, which are easy to adjust. It's the same as the exhaust cam. Just finding info on this was tricky, but I did finally find something that showed how to do it. I was pretty sure how to do it, but sometimes you learn the hard way taking stuff apart that's not supposed to come apart, so I needed to be sure. But all you do is you remove this locking tab here. Don't remove it, sorry. All you do is you loosen this locking tab here, and I have a tool that I used, which was a coilover adjusting tool. I'll show you, and that worked perfectly in there. And then you come over here and you hold the camshaft here. You can see it's notched on the sides, so you can get a big wrench on there to hold that. And then these teeth here, as you rotate the cam, they find a new home, and you can just move them over a tooth at a time until you get your intake cam within line. So it took a few tries, but I got everything where I'm happy with it. Considering how far out everything was, this should run pretty sweet. And I'll show you quickly the tool that I used. Yeah, so I keep some coilover adapter tools in my toolbox from past vehicles I've owned. The Skunk 2 fit really good. I just sniped it with an extension and a big socket. I I think the torque on that was like 70 something foot-pounds. But I painted everything and then put it back to where a hair beyond the paint, make sure everything was tight. Yeah, information. Hopefully if you're working on one of these, you'll figure it out. All right, everybody. Alpha's done. That was a ton of work. I guess just some closing thoughts on it. Working on an Alfa Romeo, easy peasy. Honestly, it wasn't difficult to do. Finding information for an Alfa Romeo, pain in the ass. Like seriously, that was time consuming to do. And from an enthusiast perspective, if you're like, you know, you own this vehicle, it's your vehicle, you love this vehicle, it's easy and it's fun to sit online and type on the forums till 2 a.m. in the morning and looking for information and chatting with other enthusiasts and finding the info. In that context, the info is out there and you're going to find it. From like somebody that's a mechanic and they get this vehicle in and they don't have experience in Alfa Romeos, that was me, to find the information for this is pain in the ass because time is money, right? Context here, I have Identifix subscription, for example. I spend over $2,400 a year just to have access to the website so I can look up all this information. So if this was a normal vehicle, or I guess just a vehicle that they cover, that information, everything I had to find, I would have found in like 8 or 9 minutes, right? Easy peasy, time is money. Versus I can't even tell you how many hours I sat on the computer looking for information for not only an Alfa Romeo, but a 1981 Alfa Romeo with the Spica fuel injection system, with this exact VVT cam and how it's adjusting and torque specs and blah, blah, blah. And then you're reading, information that people are posting, and then you kind of have to find more than one person saying the same thing to kind of have an idea of, is this accurate? Unless you could find a frame capture of something out of a manual somewhere. And I couldn't find a manual. I mean, maybe I'm just not tech savvy enough on the internet to find this stuff, but I sure tried. Anyways, that's my only rant against this vehicle, would be information and just trying to acquire information for it. Overall, it was quite simple to work on once you know what you're doing. If I had another one of these in next week, I'd probably do the same job in about a third of the time. And yeah, it's such a joy to drive. Like, it was a beautiful day yesterday when I took this thing out for its maiden voyage, and I went all around. Any of that footage that you've seen, that's Vancouver Island in British Columbia. So we live here in Canada in a pretty beautiful place. And, driving this thing, it's so nice. Like, the interior, you just don't see that. Even on modern vehicles I work on, it's like blah. And then this is just so thought out, and I don't know what you'd call that. Elegant, or yeah, beautiful. Stylish, the Italian way of, everything is beauty. I've owned a few other convertibles. I've had a BMW hardtop convertible, twin turbo. That was cool, but it wasn't a two-seater. And then the Roadster, I once had a Mazda Miata, and that's a vehicle that'll make you question your sexual orientation. just kidding. But every friend I had would make fun of me for driving that thing. It was relentless. Yeah, driving this, it just feels cool. Would I ever own one? Probably not, because there's so many vehicles I want to own, and I don't have room to store random vehicles. But I could definitely see why there's an enthusiast behind this and a passion for them, and why people love these vehicles. It is a really cool vehicle. I'm glad to say I worked on one too. I hope I could run into somebody one day and impress them with my random knowledge of a Alfa Romeo. But yeah, it's another one in the books. So another random niche vehicle I fixed. If you enjoyed watching this at all, shoot me a thumbs up, shoot me a subscribe. The next vehicle that I have coming in, literally I'm kicking this out and I'm bringing the next one in, is a European vehicle. We've been waiting on parts for about 6 months, I think, for parts to come from Europe and all over. And it's a super specific trim configuration of this kind of common vehicle, but you just don't see them. So this is probably one of a handful, maybe even one of itself in BC, because this thing was imported as well. So definitely stick around and check that video out. And I hope you enjoyed it.